Welcome to our session, Discovery, Research and Archives in Women's Art History. My name is Cindy Campbell, and I'm the head of Archives, Documentation, and Visual Resources at the National Gallery of Canada Library and Archives, and I will be your moderator this morning. Our speakers will present their papers in the order indicated in the program. That is, Monique Nadeau-Saumier will speak first, followed by Amy Marshall-Burnett and Jonathan Franklin. If everyone can hold their questions until after the three speakers have given their papers, we will have a shared question period at the end of the session. Monique Nadeau-Saumier holds a master's degree in Canadian art history from Concordia University and a master's in museum studies from the Université de Montreal and a PhD in art history from UQAM. She has taught courses in Canadian art and architectural history, decorative arts and museum studies at Bishop's University over a period of 15 years, and was executive director of the Eastern Townships Research Center at Bishop's from 1987 to 1996. Over the years, she has contributed several articles to the Center's Journal of Eastern Township Studies, Revue d'études des cantons de l'Est. Very involved in the museum field, she has been active in various positions at the Musée de la Civilisation du Québec, the Musée National des Beaux-Arts du Québec, the Musée des Beaux-Arts de Sherbrooke, the Musée d'Art de Joliette, the Musée Colby Curtis in Stansted, and as a consultant with many other museums in the Eastern Townships. She is currently a member of the Acquisition Committee, Art Ancienne et Moderne, at the Musée National des Beaux-Arts du Québec. She was a guest curator of a number of exhibitions and has written many catalog essays, among others Louis Mulstock in 1995 at the Musée National des Beaux-Arts du Québec, and in collaboration, on Township's painter Frederick S. Kohlberg in 1996 at the Musée des Beaux-Arts de Sherbrooke. In the area of her ongoing interest in women artists, Monique's research on Mary Catherine Minnie Gill resulted in 2008 in an exhibition at Uplands Cultural Center in Lennoxville. The exhibitions on Kay Kingsman and Nina Owens, both at the Musée des Beaux-Arts de Sherbrooke. As a heritage consultant, she was involved in the research and production of Chemin de Canton, Township's Trail, a regional cultural and tourist route. Monique Nadeau-Saumier is a visiting fellow at the Gail and Stephen A. Jarolowski Research Institute on Canadian Art here at Concordia University. Monique's paper is entitled Greetings from Montreal, Handcrafted Holiday Cards by a group of former female students of William Brimner at the Art Association of Montreal.
Thank you. Aren't they nice? This was an exceptional find, and I'm very happy to be able to talk a little bit about it today. In the early part of the 20th century, many American artists and printmakers created and produced their own personal cards to share with friends and family. The arts and craft movement was at its peak in the United States, and guilds and ateliers had sprung up to promote and merchandise greeting cards, prints, pottery, and other products made by hand. I'm sorry. Do I change the...
Oh, you have to remark on
Oh, here. Okay, fine. Sorry. I should have reversed. Okay, thank you. In 2007, the Biggs Museum of American Art in Dover, Delaware, presented this exhibition's Greetings from Delaware and Other American Artist Community. This exceptional museum presentation of American artist creation, for the most part handcrafted, was accompanied by an illustrated catalog. This information on the production of greeting cards by American artists proved to be a precious comparative tool at the time when I was studying the greeting cards created by Canadian women artists at the same period. Some of the images in the Delaware catalog will be used in my presentation as they show common subject matter and artistic concerns. During the 1920s, at the onset of the Great Depression, a group of Montreal artists woman artists, I should say, influenced by the arts and craft movement, turned to more simple and personal creative outlets. Linoleum block prints and greeting cards became a tool for their artistic expression. The chance discovery some months ago of a scrapbook containing more than 30 examples of such Christmas greeting cards revealed a little-known episode in their artistic production. The owner of this scrapbook, Joséphine Desbarras, studied with William Brunner at the Art School of the Art Association in the decade 1910 to 1920, where she made friends with other students, some who kept contact with her over several years, at least over the holidays. Carefully pasted in her scrapbook are some 30 greeting cards posted to Joséphine over a period of almost 40 years, all designed by 9 fellow students at the Art Association. All of these women participated fairly regularly in the spring exhibition of the Art Association during the decades of 1920 and 1930. This is a certificate dated April 26, 1921, which presented to William Brunner upon his retirement as director of the School of Art at the Art Association of Montreal. The friends of Joséphine and her own name are all lighted in red, and Joséphine is there, and Dorothy Cole, you see all these, the names of these women have sent Christmas card or made Christmas card that you will see. Most of Brunner's female students at the Art Association were born in the last decades of the 19th century and spent most of their lives in Montreal. Joséphine Desbarras, a bilingual Francophone and Catholic, lived in the family Greystone home on University Street near Milton, an area now referred to as the McGill Ghetto. For the major part, her Art Association friends belonged to the privileged Anglo-Protestant minority. Like Joséphine, they generally resided in what was known as at the period as the Square Mile, extending from Lurie Street in the east to Atwater in the west, and from La Gauchetière Street in the south to Montreal Mountain. Several of them, including Joséphine, were associated in one way or the other with the Canadian Handicraft Guild, then situated on Peel Street. And this is an area that I'm going to research further. I didn't have time to get to whatever we did there, but it's very interesting to see that they were active in the Guild. Although never pursuing an artistic career herself, Joséphine Desbarras kept close friends with her artist friends, even attending herself 2 of the outdoor sketching classes offered every year to students of the Art Association. Also featured in Joséphine's scrapbook are rare photographs recording 2 outdoor sketching trips conducted by Maurice Cullen for the students at the Art Association, one in North Hatley, the other in Georgeville. The photographs are not dated, but the North Hatley class, attended by 13 students, was held in May-June of 1921. The class in Georgeville took place in the following year, in 1922, and included 15 students. Now we are in North Hatley. You can see Maurice Cullen with the students on the veranda of a house in North Hatley. They would have rented a house that would, or a pension at the time when they moved from Montreal. It was a fortnight sketching trip. And sometimes they would have a friend who would let them have the house, but generally they all resided in the same. And we are not too sure who did it. Joséphine wrote some things, but she didn't identify those persons. This is so typical of North Hatley now. Any of you who know, the Pilsen is over there now. This is the outlet of the river from the lake, which is where North Hatley is actually situated. And we can see the very lovely sketching place along the river, which is still has a lot of, tourist homes and, I should say, bed and breakfasts. And of course, North Hatley is very much a tourist town. So these are the sketching, and this is a lovely picture of 2 of them in outdoor sketching in North Hatley. And here we see it is Louisa, probably Louisa Napier, and Belle, don't know, sketching. Now we're going to Georgeville a year later, in 1922, this time, with 15 students. This is a boat, of course. Roseville is on the Lac Montreal, as you know, and they're going out for a ride. And Josephine, thank God, has written, okay? Jessie to the left, Mrs. Cullen would go on the trips. Well, she won on this one. Gertrude Percival, Mrs. Munn, and Mr. McGowan, who owned the pension where they were all staying. And he was probably at the helm of the boat. It was funny. Here they are.
Oh.
There's a man. So we have an idea. If you look at the hats of the people she identified, you can place them again in this group. It's hats. As Estelle would say, they wore hats. Huh?
Absolutely.
And guys, this is Louisa, Jessie, and Phyllis, as identified and taught. Louisa is Napier, Jessie is Beatty, and Phyllis is Abbott. They're all friends of Josephine. They kept many Christmas cards. And here is a funny one, because Josephine or someone colored group sketching in Georgeville. Serious business. Say they're having a good time. Among the 9 women artists featured in Josephine's greeting card scrapbook, only 2, Sarah Robertson and Nora Collier, produced commercially printed cards. Collier and Robertson were among the founding members of the Beaver Hall group, and as such were invited by A.Y. Jackson to participate in the Canadian Artist Series, produced in Toronto by the firm Ross & Mans Limited. The contribution of a woman artist to this male-dominated series is discussed at length in Catherine Sinclair's excellent master's thesis, Season's Greetings in Canada, Gender and Nationalism in Ross & Mans Limited Canadian Artist Series Christmas Cards, 1923-1929. This thesis is at Carleton University, was defended in 2006. Jackson, one of the first artists to contribute to the series, was a mentor for some of the women active in the Beaver Hall group, especially Sarah Robertson, whose work he admired. Ross & Mann produced Christmas cards designed by Canadian artists from 1922 to 1952. The cards produced between 1923 and 1928 were created with the innovative Delacroix color process, a stencil technique from France. The process involved printing an outline of a scene in one color, upon which a stencil was then laid in order to add watercolor by hand. This method created cards that had the distinct appearance of woodblock or lino-cut prints with simple concept, flatness, and heavy outlines. This is all from the thesis, by the way, of Catherine Sinclair. The work of the woman whom Jackson invited to participate in the series adhered to a certain aesthetics based on nostalgia and the land. This is a card of 1926 by Nora Collier. And it's, of course, it comes from Foster, where she had her summer house at the time. Nora Collier, 1898-1979, is surely the most prolific and longest contributor to Josephine Debarras' scrapbook. Her first greeting card is dated 1926, and her last, 1962. Strangely, none of the 11 cards she sent to Josephine over those years were part of the Canadian Artist Series, although some were commercially printed. Collier took art classes at the AAM from 1913 until 1921. Collier was known to paint mainly landscapes in the eastern townships from her summer home in Foster until 1946, and around Lake Memphremagog from 1950 to 1969. Her depictions of rural Quebec landscapes were focused on villages, farmhouses, and as such, they differed largely from the Group of Seven's depiction of the barren regions of Canadian North. Here is an example of an American woman artist working in the context of the arts and crafts from the catalog of the Delaware at the same period. This is called David Street Home of the Artist. It's by Ethel Pennington Brown Leach, 18 1978, 1959. It's block print. It's not dated. Most of Collier's cards show an excellent sense of design, as in this typical Christmas subject, where the two children bringing the Christmas tree home are presented outside the framed scene. 5 greeting cards by Sarah Robertson, 1891, 1948, are found in Josephine's scrapbook. Of these, 2 are from the Canadian Artist series. Another was sent after Sarah's death by her 2 surviving sisters. Surely Sarah Robertson is one of the best-known women artists who studied with Grimner at the Art Association. Her work, today much sought after by museums and art collectors, shows a lightness and joie de vivre, which belies her difficult life condition, in genteel poverty after the Depression, with a stern and domineering mother, and coping with major health problems in the last decades of her life. This is a very cheerful, very lovely little card. Here is one. This is called Good Wishes, and this one is from the Canadian series. It's number 2095, and it shows it as a typical French-Canadian farm with house and barn, and an adult and a child in a sleigh with a small fir tree. This is like a new addition to the scene. The subject matter has been used frequently by Edouard Jackson in his Quebec paintings, but there is also a possible influence from Clarence Gagnon, as seen in this Christmas card design recently acquired by the Musée National des Beaux-Arts du Québec. Voilà. Carte de Noël, it's dated 2526. It's stenciled on paper and colored. An admirer and staunch promoter of Quebec's traditional folk art, which he discovered at the Charlevoix region, Gagnon aimed to sell craft items in Morgan's department store, as well as encouraging the production of Quebec artisans in his capacity as president of the Canadian Handicraft Guild. Gagnon also produced several designs for the Rouse and Men's Canadian Artist series. And here's another card by one of the friends, Louisa, which is in the same spirit as the 2 preceding ones. Sarah's younger sister, Marion Robertson, 1895-1978, contributed 3 of her cards to Josephine's scrapbook. While never achieving the status of Sarah, Marion was nevertheless a gifted artist who participated in the spring exhibition of the Art Association almost every year from 1911 to 1939. Her sister Sarah continued to present paintings to the spring exhibition until 1945, 3 years before her death. It is interesting to note that Marion Robertson's last entries at the spring exhibition in 1939 were 3 lino-cut prints. This is one of the most delightful cards in the scrapbook. It is by Marion Robertson. It shows 2 red-cheeked girls in their Red River coats and tuque. In this exceptional design, the use of zigzag lines for the snowy ground shows a direct influence of the Art Deco. Marion's other 2 cards were more conventional, a flower design and a stylized nativity. Churches, a popular measure in the traditional Christmas card industry, appear frequently in Josephine's scrapbook. In most cases, the churches are generally dignified but unpretentious and approachable structures, integrated in the village, as was generally the case in rural Quebec. Here are some examples that are often derivative of Edouard Jackson and Clarence Gagnon's painting. This is a card by Sarah Robertson, 1929, again one of the Canadian Artist series, number 552. And of course I couldn't getting this one in. Saint Fidel, and it's one of several, I think you have about 12 of such with the church. This is 1930 private collection, okay? This is a nice little card by Jessie Beatty, which again shows a certain colored, of course, hand-colored in watercolor. And this is one by Dorothy Cole, and Dorothy Cole is a very interesting woman artist. There's not a lot known about her. I did some research on her years ago. Christmas Greetings, 1928. This illuminated country church scene where people are seen walking towards the church for midnight mass is by Dorothy Cole, 1892, 1983. After 4 years as a AAM, co-pursued her artistic formation at the École des Beaux-Arts de Montreal. She was a friend of Anne Savage, with whom she worked as a medical artist in the military hospital at Saint-Anne-de-Bellevue after the First World War. And this is by Nora Collier, and of course it is. And it's handwritten, and this is written in pencil, by the way. You can see it really traces. Notre-Dame des Victoires, Quebec, and it's such a typical scene. And in presenting this historic church as a Christmas card motif, Collier is in tune with the American artist and printmaker Juanita Smith, 1866-1959, who produced this greeting card showing a Delaware landmark, Old Newcastle Church, in 1704. This is a very lovely card by Sarah, and it shows, of course, St. James, Barry Hainsbone. You can see the Sir John Macdonald monument. And it was sent by her sisters. There's no date, but it was sent after Sarah's death. Because in the back, they have written, we thought you'd like to have this one of Sarah's. And of course, Nora Collier painted a lot of churches, and this one is probably in Foster, and it's an oil on panel, and this is by Nora. And the last card that Nora Collier produced and sent to is the Austin Church near Saint Benoit. Those who are familiar. Now it's become a Catholic church. It was an Anglican church. Anyway, this is the last card by Collier, and at the time she and her friend Margaret Reed shared a property, Strawberry Hill, near Austin. She and Reed sold the farm in 1967, this is 62, and returned to live in Montreal until 1979, the year they both died, Nora a few days after her lifelong friend. A few religious themes. There were several, but I didn't use this one. It's particularly stunning. It is again by Dorothy Cole. It's a very interesting black and white block print, and it shows, of course, the shepherds coming on the scene. It's really very, very efficient as a design. And here is something by Dorothy Cole, which is in the Museum of Fine Art collections. And she did a little sketch of Brimner, as they all did. When they ran out of models, Brimner would just sleep there, and he would just do it. The Montreal Museum of Fine, this is in the Montreal Museum of Fine Art, okay. Created during the period of regionalism, many of the cards were inspired by Quebec rural scenes. And this is one by Jessie Beatty, okay. It's a typical landmark, probably was influenced by a painting of Sarah Robertson of the similar subject. Here we are. This is Sarah's Joseph and Marie Louise, which is 1930. It's in the National Gallery of Canada. Of course, Florence Gagnon produced a few paintings showing a Croix de Chemin or a Calvaire. Horatio Walker painted them as well. For the most part, these religious symbols have disappeared from Quebec countryside. Some of the group shows a different, direct influence. Group of 7. Here we are. Nora Collier using the pine trees as a screening device, which is a typical, as we know, group of 7. Here's a card by Darrell Morrissey, who was also involved, I think, in writing the Beaver Home. Okay. Here is a really Tom Thompson pine. Christmas Greetings. And another one by Phyllis Abbott. So, you know, it's a bit of a mixed things. And a few reflected the urban architecture of the artist's Montreal home. And underneath this, Josephine has written Louisa's house, okay? And I like this one, Chesterfield Avenue, Westmount, 55, by Nora Collier. Very simple, very efficient. For the most part handcrafted, some printed commercially, the greeting cards sent to Josephine Desbarras by our artist friends at the Art School of the Art Association appear as a visual chronicle of meaningful subjects in Canadian art at the first decades in the 20th century. In a period full of changing social values and economic hardships, the cards in Josephine's scrapbook demonstrate the versatility and perseverance of these women, a few who succeeded as professional artists under difficult conditions and general indifference. Brian Fuss said something yesterday, which I want to bring up here. It shows the importance of the networking, that the women artists in general, and the Beaver Hall in particular, that they kept contact over the years. This is a very informal way, but it shows you that they were in touch. Witnesses to an important but ephemeral aspect of material culture, greeting cards, especially handcrafted, are quickly disappearing as meaningful objects in this age of virtual greeting cards sent through internet. In preserving them for sentimental reasons, Josephine de Barra has given us access to a rare and eloquent testimony of diversified talents of premier students at the Art Association of Montreal during the first decades of the 20th century. Wow. My husband is putting this in the seat. Whoops.